Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Tonight's meeting has been advertised to be held in person and online using Zoom with login and call-in information posted on our website. Tonight's video and audio is being recorded. For tonight's meeting, Robert's rules will still apply, and the meeting will be run by the chairman, who will be assisted by an employee managing the Zoom site. During the meeting, in order to offer comment, you must be recognized by the chairman. And for people utilizing Zoom, you will need to use the chat function to be recognized. You will text your name and address, and your request to speak will then be passed on by staff to the chairman to be recognized. Once recognized by the chairman, unmute your microphone, and after speaking, we ask that you please mute your microphone. East Hempfield Township public comment rules will apply for all public comment. You must be a resident or business owner in the township to speak. You must identify yourself by name and address before speaking and sign the guest log for meeting minute purposes, or follow the chat procedure already discussed for Zoom attendance. Comment is limited to 3 minutes and must be about the agenda item being discussed, with the exception of public comment for non-agenda items. No action will be taken on any non-agenda item of any non-emergency nature during the public comment period for non-agenda items. All comments should be directed towards the board. We will now move on to our first item on the agenda, and I would ask that you would join me and rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item up for business is the consent agenda. And I'm going to ask that we remove item letter I from the approval, as I was not here at the last meeting and need to abstain for the approval of minutes. So is there a motion?
Sure, if we're going to do that too, I ask that we also move item number H, because I will be abstaining from that motion.
Okay.
That we have enough to approve these stuff.
Is there a motion to approve items A through G on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Up next will be under item 2H, invoices from all funds covering May 20th to June 9th, 2023, totaling $803,970.97. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion for Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. LaFever. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. Up next, the approval of the May 17th, 2023 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion for Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. Thank you. Up next are action items. The vacation of alley between 127 and 131 Main Street, ordinance 2023-03.
So were approached by Mr. Cooper, who owns 127. His brother owns 131 in Main Street, Landisville. And he has expressed interest in having that area vacated. It's a alleyway that fronts on Main Street. And then the back end is the right of way for Norfolk Southern. The board agreed to move forward with the vacation. Mr. Cooper has agreed to pay all costs. The ordinance has been advertised and it's ready for consideration by the board.
Is there any discussion on this item?
No.
I think everything's in order.
Okay. Anyone from the audience that has any comments? Anyone on Zoom? Hearing none, is there a motion for the vacation of alley between 127 and 131 Main Street
So moved.
to adopt ordinance 2023-03 vacating Railroad Alley located between 127 and 131 Main Street, Landisville? Motion by Mr. LaFever. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Up next, amendment to roadway classification, adding Richardson and Genesee to collector road category, ordinance 2023-04.
So both Richardson and Genoese have primarily business located on them. As part of any expansion or change, industrial facilities need to be fronting on a collector or a arterial road. These two roads are currently listed as local roads. So we are considering moving these to collector roads.
Is there any questions, comments, concerns from the board in
None.
reference to this? Mr. LaFever?
No, nothing.
Anyone from the audience on this subject? Anyone from Zoom? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-04, adding Richardson Drive and Genesee Drive to collector road category?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Russell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFever. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Planning Commission recommendation to fill vacancy for the alternate position.
There was a vacancy as an alternate position on the planning commission. The board representatives as well as the planning commission representatives had interviews of 4 people. The planning commission is in your packet, has recommendations for those 4 as in a list. Their top recommendation is for Stacy Reidenbach to be appointed as the alternate planning commission member.
Is there any comments or questions? in
I've
regards
come to know Mr. Hendricks, who has been attending a number of meetings over the last year. He is a transplant, so to speak, from Lancaster Township, where he served on, as I recall, discussion with him on the planning commission there. He lives off of Miller Road in the Hayden area, I believe. And the bit that I've gotten to know him, I was impressed with his interest in serving East Hempfield Township. So I would support Mr. Hendricks.
I was at the interviews for all 4 of the individuals. So
Mr.
ahead.
Bennett, can you pull your mic closer, please?
Sure. Oh, yes, I was at the interviews, for all 4 individuals. We had some good candidates to pick from. Certainly some of these people, if they don't make the planning commission, are going to be up for other spots in the township. We found Stacy to be very well qualified as an alternate on the planning commission. And she has a lot of experience having served on Manheim Township's planning commission. So again, I would support her candidacy as an alternate.
I sat in interviews too, that both the top 2 were the top 2 in my book. And what I told Cindy afterwards was, when the next vacancy goes up, whoever's the number 2 on that list really should just get that spot at this point. We both, Stacy and Richard did a very good job interviewing at this point. So I don't necessarily have any issues with going with the planning commission, but I can clearly see Richard serving in that role too, when the next vacancy opens up, which will happen. We seem to have about a vacancy to 2 vacancies a year on the planning commission, so I'm sure it will open up at this point. So I do agree with Mr. LaFever's position too. He's very qualified. But I could have gone either way, and this is what the planning commission voted for, so I don't have any issues with that, what they came up with.
Mr. Weaver?
So I was not at the interviews, but my general tendency is to go with what the planning commission recommends. So I would be in favor of Stacy Reidenbach.
The other thing too, that Kevin Powell interviewed very well too, and we talked about having an industrial development authority opening.
I've reached out to the chairman of the authority twice, asking for him to reach back out to him, and he hasn't done so. So
Given his financial background.
Exactly.
And his military background, I think that would be a good location for him. For a former captain in the Navy.
The other thing that I would point out is the fact that, you know, Stacy is female and she'd be replacing, in theory, another female. So I think it's good to have that diversity on the planning commission.
Okay, do we have any comments from the audience, or is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak?
I do have one on Zoom.
Okay,
Mr. Powell would like to speak.
To the Board of Commissioners, I'd like to quickly discuss not the outcome of the recommendation to fill a vacant alternate position on the Planning Commission, but to provide 3 quick comments about the process undertaken resulting in that recommendation. First and foremost, discussion of the qualifications and work experience of those seeking appointment to the Planning Commission as an alternate was conducted at the May stated meeting of the Planning Commission. The meeting was an open, in-person, virtual meeting. Discussion of the candidates and a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors was included in the agenda under old business. If there ever was a reason for a moderator to move a meeting into executive session, this was it, but that didn't happen. Second, a few days after the meeting, a video of the meeting was posted on the internet on YouTube. This included detailed discussions of individual qualifications, work experience, and suitability for appointment to the Planning Commission. I certainly did not give my consent for posting my personal information on YouTube. To say that I am displeased that it remains on the internet available for viewing and for download is an understatement. My third point does not affect me directly, but I do not believe alternates should be involved in the selection of alternates. 2 members of the board were absent from the May stated meeting. Accordingly, the 2 alternates serving on the commission filled in to participate in the deliberations, resulting in selecting a 3rd alternate. This sets up a scenario whereby an alternate who selected an alternate could conceivably see the person they participated in selecting being selected for a permanent position on the commission while they remain an alternate. In my opinion, authority to recommend the alternates for service on the commission, as well as to the permanent positions, should be vested in the permanent commissioners alone. These are just 3 big rocks. There are certainly others, especially in the HR realm, such as selection criteria. I have no idea of the selection criteria associated with filling this vacant position on the Planning Commission. With all due respect, I do not believe there is a consensus within the Planning Commission of the criteria they use to make their recommendation. Anyone who agrees with this assertion, which I respectfully submit, should just log onto YouTube and watch how it unfolded in real time. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay. Well, gentlemen, we have a decision to make here tonight. That's number 1. I think Ms. LaFever, I think you were in favor of Mr. Hendricks. The rest, if I understand correctly, thought he did well as well. Actually thought all the candidates, I think, did well. However, the Planning Commission did recommend Mr. Reidenbach. It's going to be up I'm sorry, Stacy Ridenball. It's going to be up to us to make that decision. So essentially, we're going to need a motion.
There's a consensus of the board. So I yield to Frydenbaugh.
So with that, is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and appoint Stacy Ridenball to fill the vacant alternate position with a term ending January 2025?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Weaver. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chair, just ask, based off what Mr. Powell said, I think it would be good for our manager just to review what information actually is being discussed in a public meeting of a personal nature. I mean, we did do the interviews more in a little bit semi-private format so that we could have a discussion about what was on people's resumes, and I can understand the concern about some information being discussed having not been at that meeting, but I think we could just look into it.
Yes, I know that for appointment of a supervisor, that the meeting must be held and it must be in public. It must be open to the public. I'm not sure.
That is the
About-
case with all the commissions and others.
So
yes.
Planning Commission, the interviews must be public.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
It does not rise to the level of an executive session topic.
Okay,
I think we
Is-
can maybe limit as to what personal information gets discussed in the meeting.
I can
So-
review the YouTube video, but I don't believe that there was any personal information presented. I could be wrong.
Yeah, just if you could just look into that because this is a claim was made.
could you actually just go one step further and reach out to Mr. Powell and just get the specifics of what he was concerned about that was released?
I wanted to add one thing, having served on the planning commission and helped in the selection of, or the recommendation of alternates, I don't know that there really is a set criteria that was used. It was more a case of trying to have a diverse collection of backgrounds, like, I know there's one member from the ag community who's been on there for a long time. If we see an architect or engineer, and there's not already one on the planning commission, that would get more of a higher preference. Sometimes, real estate background we found helpful. So it kind of varies depending on who's on the board at the time and what we feel would be a good addition to the skill set. So I don't know that would be I guess it would be possible to put something in writing, but I don't think that a recommendation, what's the word, advisory boards such as that. I'm not sure how that would work in reality exactly.
Early on in Mr. Powell's comments, it seemed like he was concerned about the fact that personal information was recorded and made available, and he did not give permission for that. I think that's an aspect of the process I think we should take a look at, either have a disclosure or an understanding that what happens here in the interview is going to be, potentially could be public. But, you know, I think it's important that we look into that aspect of the whole process.
So if the board's in agreement with this, I'd like to refer the matter to the Admin Finance Committee to work with staff, just to take a look at how we're doing this, what actual candidates are being notified of and so forth. So I don't want us to get bogged down here tonight with it, but I do think it's worthwhile to take a look at. So Mrs. Schweitzer, we're going to refer this to the Admin Finance. And next time we have a meeting, can you put it on the agenda, please?
Will do.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Powell asked if he could have one more comment.
Sure.
Yes,
ahead.
like Mr. Wigglesworth, I don't want to get bogged down in having a back and forth on this, but I believe what I heard from Mrs. Schweitzer is that there is a requirement to make the interviews public. I did not have a problem with that, and I would not have a problem with it. A group of people later on, after the interview, deliberating about me is my concern.
Understood, and that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have the Hempfield Water Authority recommendation to fill the vacant seat and the resignation letter.
The Hempfield Water Authority reached out to me, advised me that there was a vacancy created by the retirement or the resignation of Mr. Brubaker after 20 more years of service. And they have recommended, as is their custom, to fill that position with Joshua Gullum.
Are there any comments or questions regarding this item?
He's a civil engineer. And Mr. Eshelman is also a civil engineer. And as I understand it, they're looking to groom the next chairman of the water authority at some point. Is that a correct
That's
statement?
correct.
And they would like to have a person with a technical background on their board to do that. So that they were specifically looking for a civil engineer, and this is the one that they came up with. So and that's a little bit of background. It's a little bit different than how we normally do things, but we have not actually done the interview process like we've done with the zoning hearing board and the planning commission with our two authorities.
That's correct.
With the rec authority or with the water authority, we've done more direct appointments with the board, usually upon recommendation from the authority. So this is still kind of sticking with that trend.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding this appointment? Any comments or questions from the audience? Any comments or questions from Zoom on this one? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the resignation of Glenn Brubaker Jr. from the authority effective July 1st, 2023, having served over 20 years, and accept the recommendation of the Hempfield Water Authority to appoint Joshua Gullum to fulfill Mr. Brubaker's term until January 2027?
So moved.
Motion for Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second with regrets.
Second for Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Watershed-based stormwater management plan, countywide update Act 167.
We were reached out from the county planning commission. The county planning commission is looking at potentially creating or investigating a countywide Act 167 plan, which addresses stormwater countywide. They've asked for input from municipalities and support as they seek funding from the commissioners and the state to fund the study. So what you have before you is can't think of his name. Mr. Huber with the county planning explained to you the process that they're really just investigating at this point. They're not sure they want to go down this direction, but they are looking for some support from staff at the township levels to help them make that determination and looking for the township to support that effort.
Any comments or questions?
I don't know how Mr. Weaver feels about it, because I'm not always a fan of 167 plans. It adds an extra level of bureaucracy to the process. I can see why they're also a little, it sounds like there's a little hesitancy in the letter too. It's got some positives and some negatives, and you got more of a background than I do, Mr. Weaver.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking they want to do, or if it's whether it's coming from DEP, because DEP uses that to if they have some new regulation they want to get in place across the whole state, that's how they have done it in the past. Or whether it's just LCPC feeling that it's time to do an update. So it sounds like they're just at this point checking into the possibilities, so seems harmless enough.
Yeah, at this point, is it really just the initial stages? There's no commitments, there's
Right.
no
Yeah.
indicator that they're gonna go forward with a county plan.
I mean, according to the law, the plans were supposed to be updated, I think, every 5 years. So it's definitely been longer than that since the last one, so I think just based on that, it would be legitimate to support it.
Is it something that's important that we act on tonight? Is this something that can wait and we can deliberate on?
It is important to them because they are submitting grant funding. And they're looking for support letters, which is essentially what this would be.
What's staff's position on this?
Nate, I know we talked about it.
I think it's funded by the state, or the county, I don't think they've never asked for funding from the townships. So the only cost would be if we had to update our stormwater ordinance, which could be, a couple years down the road.
Yeah, currently, I believe our stormwater ordinance is based off the DEP model,
Yes.
as opposed to county model. Okay.
County models based on the DEP model.
Yeah, I think we have the most current one though through DEP, because I know we did do modifications to our stormwater plan. Whereas the county plan is a little lagging behind. Maybe they're catching up.
I just, on the MS4 side of things, when we put if the county has a current 157 plan, we will have to take account into that for MS4. So I'm generally supportive of us participating in the process. I'm not necessarily 100% enthused to having an updated plan with the county level because I don't know how it's going to be utilized by DEP. Right now, our plan is so dated and old, it's not being utilized, which is what Mr. Weaver was talking about. I think it's over, it's over a decade old, I think, at this point, if not older.
Yeah.
It's no longer
Yeah.
really relevant. And so I'm not sure this is necessarily going to be a good thing or not for us with MS4 and for stormwater. But it's probably better for us to participate in the process and try and influence things than to be on the outside.
Exactly, yes.
And one other thing is I believe that the last time it was kind of rolled into the whole county comprehensive plan, and I know that they kind of, LCPC likes to go every so often and take the different pieces and update them. So it could just be I don't really know what they're looking to do, but that's a possibility or a good possibility that's just simply they looked at it and decided it was time to see about updating it.
I did get a reach out from Will Clark from the Metropolitan Planning Organization that handles the TIP program and the traffic program. He strongly requested that we seriously consider it. It's a process that the county planning is doing. I think Mr. Russell makes sense that we should be in the inside as opposed to the outside, see what they're up to.
My only potential concern is that East Hempfield has managed their 57 better than some of our neighbors. And getting into a cooperative agreement, I would not wish to share some of the credits we have banked and things. And so if we do proceed in this, I would hope we do it cautiously and be able to guard our resource.
I think the big picture is the county adopts 157 plan with or without our support. It's a countywide document. So that's why I'm suggesting we at least be on the inside and participate and offer our concerns. If we're on the outside and they adopt it, we're really not, there's not much we can do, but if we're in the process and we got concerns about the direction it's going, we can certainly have conversations with the county commissioners and others about our concerns if we're part of the process. So that's, like I said, I'm not thrilled with the 157 process. I know it could be very heavy-handed on individual property owners. I know it's going to complicate our MS4 program. So for me, it seems like there's a lot of negatives. But if the county's going down this road, I think we need to be trying to influence a little bit.
You did say it would add some complexity to our,
MS4 are permitting it.
and frankly, that's my concern. That it's more hoops to jump through. unnecessarily, because by and large, I think we do a pretty good job with our stormwater management process here in East Hempfield. So, and we really don't know what's involved here, or how much of a issue this could be for us. And I'm pretty much in your camp. I am concerned about it. And I think I'm very concerned about adding another layer to this, because I know how difficult managing stormwater is. And when you look at the planning process for development, you know, there is a county approval, but you know, we really don't consider much or give much influence to that when it comes to, you know, what we do here. You know, we're on our own show.
This is very much a very initial start of this process. They are seeking funding. They're seeking for support letters from municipalities, particularly the larger ones. And that's what you would be granting only.
So I hear the concern and, you know, I agree. I do think we should take part in it, and it is the initial step. I think probably when it comes time to, if there's a board member or somebody that's appointed to the county's committee that's going to look into this and do it, we'll pick one of you two. So is there any other questions or comments in regards to this item? Any from Zoom?
No.
So hearing none, is there a motion to support the county efforts by submitting a letter agreeing to the merits of a study for a countywide approach to stormwater planning and a willingness to provide participation in discussions regarding a countywide Act 167 plan?
So I also move with the concerns noted.
Motion by Mr. Russell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weaver. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed?
One. Opposed.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. Okay. Up next, special event block party, Farm Lane closure on June 24th, 2023 from 2 to 6 p.m.
So the residents of 145 Farm Lane reached out in reference to having a block party that would close Farm Lane between East Avenue and Hempfield Avenue. It's a very short section of residential roadway with 5 houses on it. Their desire among their neighborhood is to celebrate a wedding that occurred earlier during COVID and couldn't be celebrated. Their neighborhood has been through some trauma. The house at the end of East Avenue on Farm Lane burned to the ground and had to be rebuilt just about a year ago. So they've requested to close the roadway for a short time. They will not be doing anything in the roadway. They just simply want to allow the neighbors to converse back and forth or traverse back and forth across the roadway without concern for traffic. The police chief has reviewed it as well as the rest of staff, and it would be staff's recommendation that you authorize the closure of Farm Lane on June 24th, 2023 between 2 and 6 p.m. for a block party.
Any comments or questions on this? Any comments or questions from the audience on this? Any from Zoom?
No.
Hearing none, is there a motion to authorize the closure of Farm Lane on June 24th, 2023 between 2 and 6 p.m. for a block party?
So moved.
Okay, motion from Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. LaFever. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Special event, anniversary birthday event for Blue Collar. That's good news. For the corner of Church and Stony Battery from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
So this is a little bit of unusual request by the Board of Supervisors. It's required because of the lease agreement for the ground lease of the property at Four Seasons between the Rec Authority and the township. And their attorney has recommended that this be at least acknowledged by the Board of Supervisors, not necessarily approved. It is on Four Seasons property at the corner where the grassy lawn is. It's a 2-hour event. It would be their second anniversary and also the dog's birthday, which
Okay.
is, I'm not sure what his name is,
Blue?
but he has a blue collar, so that's where it comes from.
Mac.
Mac, thank you.
No, it's good to see that they're doing well. And it's good to have a partner there. Any comments or questions on this?
I think as a show of support, we should actually take action on it.
The other thing I meant, they're going to provide insurance.
That has been
Right,
provided,
right.
yes. Yes,
Okay.
have it in hand.
I mean, they've done a good job. They helped turn around the reception part of our golf course. They're a big part of why we're on the plaque now. And I think it'd be good to acknowledge our support of them.
Any other comments or questions from the audience on this? Any comments or questions from Zoom? Hearing none, is there a motion to acknowledge notification of the desire of Blue Collar to hold their business anniversary and birthday event on the lawn area at the corner of Stony Battery Road and Church on June 17th, 2023 from 6 to 9 p.m.?
So moved.
Okay. Motion for Mr. Russell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Bennett. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Could you thank them for the job they've been doing too? on
Sure.
Hempfield Township.
So up next, under old business, we have the Church Road, Knoll Road Park Survey results from the last meeting. And I was not at the last meeting, but I did view this on Zoom. And before we get into this discussion, I think it's important that everyone understands, because I really don't think still, even now today, that people understand what we're talking about is approving a concept plan. We are not talking about building any amenities. The township is not talking about spending taxpayer dollars to put in any of these amenities. And it seems, for whatever reason, there is misinformation that is out there continuing that the township is getting ready to build this beautiful park. And in my view, the concept plan, as shown, was a beautiful park. But again, this is the very, very beginning stages. It is a concept plan for the park, which in my view is one step closer to permanently preserving open space for land that the township owns, that it can never be developed in the future. So that's what we're talking about here when we get into this. I believe the results that we've been provided are updated results in which it appears there were, in the original results that we had gotten, there were roughly 70 or so respondents or replies that we can't verify were from East Hempfield Township. They've been removed. So in our packet, there is an updated response. It's broken down into active, passive, and operational response. So again, just to reiterate, every amenity that's shown on that plan, the township just does not have the funding currently to pay for these items. So any item, whether it be a playground, whether it be conservation, whether it be walking trails and benches and trees, are all going to come from outside funding, whether it's from a conservation group, whether it's from some other charity or some type of fundraising. That is one thing that this board has been unanimous on, that we just don't have the money currently to pay for these facilities. We do have 50+ acres, which has always been designated to be a park at some point. And at some point, my hope is that it is. With that, are there any questions on the updated survey results from the board or any comments?
I have a comment. I was recently reminded of where this began in August of 2020 at our special meeting to determine how we would manage the CARES funds. It's 9 months. We have been into this project. I have spent much time with the initial information from staff and what came today, and have analyzed that there is 38% of the respondents are looking for passive, and 52% are looking for active, and 10% couldn't be identified one way or another. As my simple analogy has been, we have had a open space sod farm situation, which has become accustomed to the residents and been popular. However, as of August last year, we awoke the giant, and now we have to deal with it. And we have been dealing with it, but perception is reality. And this is why people, with their concern about possible development or what gets developed, spread rumors. We, I believe, must table in effect or put a stop order on this discussion and show that we are not going to do anything forward, or we may need to stay open to what might occur. A thought that occurred to me today is if there is a line struck across the 53 acres from Ladderback and Nault to the corner where the golf course intersects the back of the properties on Hermosa, Randy, that area, the northern part where it's adjacent to residences could have the passive uses. That takes away some of the concern of those folks regarding lights, noise, traffic, and all of their concerns. The southern part of that, adjacent to the golf course and park, could have the active sports things. Furthermore, and there does not need to be a chain link fence or katina wire or anything between the two sections. They could have the playground on the middle ground and the lavatories and such things that are common to both sides. There can be some sensible development of this that serves all of these concerns, in my analogy. This, I think, would serve to placate some of the concerns and get the information better established. In each of the two halves, I would then suggest that the percentages shown in the graph or in the responses would be what is done in those sections. For example, if the, I believe it's 38 responses wanted the baseball fields, that is prorated to the acreage, which is say 37 or 8 or whatever. And so that would determine how many baseball fields, et cetera. There's things that could be done here that I believe would take away some of the concerns. And then the only question is if and when and how it comes about. So those are the thoughts I had reviewing what staff has done, a lot of work. I thank them for doing that. One of the challenges they had was there was, I believe, 80 some non-residents in the survey initially. We got that straightened out, and we have pretty much what I believe is a true representation of the feelings of the residents of East Hempfield for this, particularly those adjacent to this Knowlton Church Street location.
And again, just to be clear, what we're talking about is the adoption of the concept plan, correct? We're not talking about we're planning to do all these things, right?
We've awoken the giant, though. We have to do something.
Well,
We do have to do something. People want to know what we're going to do. And
what we're going to do is approve a concept plan unless you're proposing something different. That's what this whole,
if we're talking about approving what
Ed,
David Miller prepared and we've looked
your-
at, I would say that I would not support that plan at this time.
Okay. All right. Any other comments?
I
I would
think
just, oh, sorry, go ahead. Dan.
all right, just very quick. It all started with the need for more baseball fields, so if there's another place they can go, or maybe build one or two there, I don't know, but that's what started all this was ball fields, and the park tonight out here is pretty much in full use, and that's what got this all started. So that's my 2 cents.
I believe we should be moving towards making a park here. What's in the park will come later and next. It'll be some mix of active and passive, as we've been discussing. Period. That's all we know right now. As far as building a park. Do we know that there's an organization in the community that is willing to fundraise and build some ball diamonds? That would be the other thing, yes. But that's not, there's nothing in stone on that right now. And as you say, and even the concept plan itself will change over time.
I made my point clear that, it took a long time to develop Ahern Park, and what was the original concept is not what is out there today, and it will evolve over time. I think one perspective as a parent of a son who played baseball and as a former soccer coach who coached soccer, we talk about boundaries being drawn, and I look at just the way over the years where my kids played. When my son played baseball, he played baseball in East Pete. He played baseball in West Hempfield Township. He played baseball in Mountville, and he played baseball at Ahern Park here. But he played ball at all 4 locations, as well as the Hempfield Fire Department and the Centerville Middle School. Those were the locations where he played baseball over the years. He didn't just stay in East Hempfield Township. He played at all the adjoining municipalities around the township. I look at before we built the Dream Park, and our original tot lot was kind of breaking down and falling apart down here. When my kids were little, they went to Daniel's Den and play, which is in Manor Township. I look at right now, my 2 sons are into disc golf, and so they go to Fairview Park on a regular basis to play disc golf. They don't stay in East Hempfield. So when we have this concept that only East Hempfield residents are involved, our East Hempfield residents are utilizing parks adjacent to our township, just like we're going to have residents from West Hempfield that come to Ahern Park and come to our facilities in Mountville and stuff. These parks are community parks. And our residents take advantage of our neighbors' parks, just like our neighbors are going to take advantage of our parks. So I just want to just kind of throw that little bit of discussion out that, these parks are basically used for active recreation, and you can't control who comes in them. And quite frankly, our residents also utilize other people's parks too. So it cuts both ways when we talk about, well, we're going to have all these outsiders using our parks, when we as outsiders are using other people's parks too. So.
And I just, again, want to hammer home, and I cannot say this enough, 2 items. This is a concept plan. I really don't think it should be controversial, and I'm not sure how it's become controversial. We're talking about a few ball fields and some passive activity on a 50-acre site that our whole township can enjoy, not just a few people. This is a $3 million asset as it sits, not a rezoning, not anything else, just as ag land. It's $3 million and it's an asset. And it is just simply not fair to keep this as an asset for just a few people to enjoy. Now, there have been some neighbors who I feel had some thoughtful and deliberate comments and concerns about parking, about noise, about lights, about stormwater management, and all those things absolutely are legitimate concerns. And as we get further along past a concept stage, when we get into actual design and planning and land development of these features, all of those items are going to be taken into account. All of us board members are members of this community, and we care very deeply about it. And we're not going to put an eyesore or an amusement park or, some other thing that's going to just destroy the surrounding neighborhoods or the golf course. Three of us live within a stone's throw of this proposed park or park to be. Again, passive activity. I talked to a lot of people here tonight. Passive activity is a big hit. Walking trails are a big hit. We want them. We want to see them. We would love for somebody here who is passionate about passive activity to take up the torch and put it together and fundraise in a similar fashion to how the Dream Park was built. We would absolutely love and welcome that. We want that feature. If somebody's passionate about meadows and trees, absolutely. Let's get it together. We would love to help facilitate, but we don't have the funding right now with all the projects that we've got going on to take that and see it to fruition. How the park gets divided, we'll have to go back today. There's been some more data that's been collected this afternoon that'll be incorporated in to what we have, and then we'll get our board will get a concept plan. We'll display that. And again, another thing, we have been debating this for over 9 months. So this did not happen in the middle of the night. This was not rushed through. So when this gets out there in the next month or two and we vote on that, I just hope all the citizens or the neighbors that live close there that are opposed to anything going there, period, understand we have heard you. It might not be the result that you wanted, but your comments were taken into consideration, and this was not done in the middle of the night. And this is not, and need not be a very controversial item. It should be an item that brings the community together, and for whatever reason, that is just baffling me that it's not. That's all I have on it. There's really not real much more to discuss on this until we get the data back from today and we get, an updated concept plan. With
Can I clarify one other thing too? We've been talking about this specific issue on what occurs at the park related to sports and activity. But there is another misconception out there about stormwater. And we've been talking about stormwater related to this area now for 7, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, pretty much since Tropical Storm Lee. And we've developed a series of projects that we are slowly over the years funding to address the flooding that personally occurs in my neighborhood and your neighborhood in Mill Creek, since we're the ones downstream of everybody. There are plans to address the stormwater along Nolt, Randy Road, the golf course, Gloucester, that whole area. We have the different sets of projects that we're looking to do to address those stormwater issues, which would also include the sod farm area. And we are funding money for that. Those are actually items that we're seeking grant funds for, and we are proceeding forward with the projects. But we are very well aware of the stormwater issues in that area and how ineffective some of the things like the basin is and some of the other things that are there, and the need to do some improvements there. And we are actively planning stormwater projects to address stormwater in that whole region, which includes the sod farm.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Okay. Anything from the audience on this matter? Go ahead.
So I got it. Concept plan, no taxpayer money, and it's going to take a long time to happen, right? That's what I heard over and over again, and that's great. So I want you to imagine this wide open field, this grassland, this really nice, quiet, tranquil place with nothing in it. I mean, it's great. It's a great place to be. You can walk through and stuff. Now I want you to fast forward 40 years. I want you to look at what happened to Amos Herb Park. We don't have a grassy field here anymore. We don't have open farmland here anymore. We have a dream park. We have tennis courts. We have bocce courts. We have basketball courts. We have pickleball courts. We have walking paths. We have open spaces for events on holidays. We have people coming and gathering here. We have fundraisers running it. We have a pavilion here. We have benches. We have tables. It's just amazing, all this stuff. And this took 40 years. We transformed a piece of grass, a piece of ground that was donated, and that hundreds of people come here every day, maybe thousands, and enjoy it. So we took something that was just a blank slate, and over 40 years, you guys developed that. And that's your legacy. That's the legacy of the previous supervisors. And it's also a legacy of Amos Herr and his family. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for your time. I just wanted to respond to the gentleman on the right up here and your idea
Excuse me.
of splitting off that property.
You
Excuse
need to
me.
give your name and address, please.
Oh, Chris Lausch, 1153 Old Eagle Road. So I live right on top of the sod farm pretty much. One thing living up on top of the hill on Old Eagle and around that neighborhood is when the sports field's over at the school, which is much further away than the sod farm is, when they're in active use and those lights are on and you can hear the sound, you can see the lights. It's not so passive. It's very active. And even as far away as that is, it affects our community. And to have something right across the street that's going to be built and incorporates announcers, sports programs. And I love sports too, but has all types of, it's not going to be, I think, as you say, it will be. Now, the only other thing I would say also is that this sod farm is surrounded mostly by a dense residential area with the exception of the golf course. Unlike other spaces where you guys have developed parks and things like that. So it makes more sense, and from a survey that I saw, which kind of is different than what I heard here, people seem to be more interested in passive and trails and maybe a pavilion, but no lights, no loud sound, stuff like that. It seems like over half of the number of people that I saw surveyed favor that versus, say, all fields. So I just wanted to add that 2 cents for what it's worth in response to your kind suggestion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Patty Clark, 3337 Cochrane Drive. I wanted to thank the township, Diane, and the township folks that recalculated the results of the survey. I do appreciate filtering out non-residents with the survey counts. I look forward to seeing a revised plan because I understand that that's what's going to happen now. We'll take you'll be taking the results of the survey and then revising the concept plan. Is that correct?
That's going to be up to staff. I think they're going to incorporate all the things that came in on the survey and update it, change it, tweak it. I'm not sure, but it'll be in their hands. Yes.
Okay, because I mean, I think it's important for the results of the survey and for tonight's input, the open house that was held, for the proportion, like the interest of the township residents and the percentages and the proportions to be taken into account in the overall plan. I mean, and I understand that this all began with a group with HYA that came forward with an interest in more fields. But if you look at the results of the survey, yes, with baseball and softball fields, it was 37% of the respondents were interested in that. But the converse of that is 63% of those that responded had no interest in baseball or softball fields.
Well,
So-
that's not what that indicates. It's 37% were in favor. It doesn't mean 63 were opposed to it.
Well, they didn't have an interest in it. That's what they didn't have an interest
Okay.
in that, in a park. So I guess I feel that the the purpose of the survey and tonight's open house was to find out what people are interested in having there. And then the design itself should be representative of the amount of interest in the various activities.
If we could just explain a little bit of what the survey did and the results that were given.
Go ahead.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but go ahead and then we can do
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I didn't want to interrupt Patty, I'm sorry.
Okay. I mean, and just a comment that was made, Mr. Wigglesworth, you made a comment tonight about if other folks are interested in passive types of recreation or trees and plants, find an organization to come in and help fund some of that. I love that idea. Didn't know that was an option. I kind of feel like maybe from the beginning, if that would have been put out to the residents that, hey, we're thinking of developing this into recreation, can people identify their interests and then find funding sources for what you're interested in? But that concept was never presented to anybody, but we can, for those of us that are interested in more passive recreation, we could pursue some of that, but I didn't realize that was on the table. So,
Absolutely. I love walking trails. I would love for a conservation group or a local person to take on that responsibility and spearhead something like that. I think our whole board would be grateful for that. So that could be an area that we all come together. Thank you. Ms. Switzer, you wanted to?
So Mr. Sturgis and Mrs. Garber spent quite a bit of time reviewing the data, reviewing the comments, looking at the statistics, which the updated version is on the table tonight. There's also a plot plan of a map that shows the respondents that we were submitted. What you have to keep in mind is the township is comprised of over 26,000 residents, people, just over 8,000 households. The respondents we got back, not excluding the out of resident ones, was 473. 483. Not a very good representation looking at those statistics. The way the survey was presented, it was asked, you're gonna have to help me here, what your favorite,
What was important to be included?
what was important to be included in a park. We had it divided between active and we had it divided between passive activities. So there was nothing wrong with a respondent responding to that they wanted walking trails. But that same respondent also might want baseball, might want a playground, might want a dog park. So the fact that 90% based on our statistics wants a walking trail, they also might want other things in the park, not just a walking trail. So the statistics and the way the survey was drawn up, you can't draw that conclusion of the 90% of people want walking. They do, but other things also could be the case. And I might not be explaining this as good as it could be, because I know Mr. Sturgis and Mrs. Garber dove over this data to get something to you that was more representative of what you were looking for and based on the survey results and the questions that were asked.
No, and I think that's good. I think too, when we come back with whatever plan we come back, maybe a good breakdown for everybody to see, because sometimes the visual doesn't do it as well as just actual percentage. How much of it is actually going to be active and how much of it is actually going to be passive? Open fields, open space, meadow, walking trail.
I mean,
versus-
I would encourage everyone to look at the draft concept plan that was already presented.
Mhm.
And not just the big baseball field that's on there, or not just the big walking path, but also the little components. If you were at the meeting tonight, a Gaga pit is a very small circle. Pavilion is a very small square. And you can have all those things on 53 acres. It doesn't, make it too tight. You can see at her park, the activities that are out here. There's a lot of use that can happen on 53 acres. Now, that's setting aside the major concerns, and I think the board has heard this, that major concerns are the noise, the lights, the fact that this is more of a tournament type of event. Those are important things that the board hears, and as it's being formally designed and funded, no matter what that funding source is, those have to be taken into consideration. Because if the person on Old Eagle has the problem with lights at the baseball field, at the school facility, there are at least 2 board members on here that are basically in the same distance from those sports fields and have the same potential issue. And particularly also with the park at Church and Knolt, if it happens. I've said my 2 cents.
Thank you. One more, quick.
Got to throw this in. Chris Lausch, 1153 Old Eagle Road, Lausch, is a few people earlier at the open house observed that it seemed like there was some school-age girls that were putting together heavily athletic intensive maps as we were all creating our own scenarios. I just wanted to be on record that that was the case. I don't know whose kids they were, but they were drawing that up, and I'm hoping they didn't submit them as part of the consideration of the board because it doesn't seem right. So for what it's worth, I think property owning adults like myself and others should really more so represent potential ideas put before you guys.
Thank you. Good.
Jay Enoch, Hempfield Youth Association. Just want to say thank you to the board. I know it's been a long process for you guys. There's been a lot of time, energy, and effort in consideration for this property. I think you guys have done a tremendous job. And on behalf of HYA, we are happy to say that we love both passive and active opportunities for this property. I think we have folks in our organization that value both sides of it, my family included. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the HYA, because I think that gets lost sometimes, the time, energy, and effort for you guys discussing this, putting stuff together, attending these meetings. So thank you on behalf, and we look forward to hopefully developing this property for both passive and active use.
And I would just like to say something for HYA, because I feel like in this process, I don't think purposefully, but your organization's taken a lot of slack, and I don't think it's warranted. I think you guys have a great mission. You do a great job. I think it's up to this board to find a good balance for the neighbors and for what you want to do there, and I think we'll do that. But I just want to commend you and appreciate the efforts that you do for keeping our kids occupied and out of trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to also throw in real quick. There's also been some misconceptions out there that this is a money grab by HYA. And I want to address that too, because I know the HYA coaches. I know people that have been involved in the process over the years. They're all volunteers. They put in a ton of time. And most of the fundraising that's done is by the coaches and by the teams and the parents. And that's the fundraising source for HYA. It's not corporate interest and some of the other BS that I've seen that was being circulated around the community about these guys. You are a community organization. You're looking out for youth. People might disagree about where the location of a baseball field is, but no one can disagree about what your mission statement is, which is active exercise for our youth, which is keeping them off of electronics and other things that we don't want them doing. And I commend you for that. And I just want to go on the record that any discussions about commercialization and all that stuff that's been going on behind the scenes is a bunch of BS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just real quick, another thing I would like to point out is that HYA recently completed a renovation of the ball fields at Rohrstown.
Yes.
And how much did that cost HYA?
We put $46,000 into
Okay.
those two.
And how much did the township pay towards that?
None.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And that's the kind of thing that we're looking for from everyone that's going to be involved in this.
Okay, anybody I think we've heard from everybody in the room that wanted to speak. Is there anyone online?
There is one person on Zoom.
Okay.
Susan, you're still muted.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have any particular thing to say other than I was never asked to complete a survey. I don't know who got the surveys or how they were distributed. I am a resident and a property owner in the township, not right adjacent to the sod farm, but I do use the golf course a lot. Been a member of the golf course for 30 years that I've lived in East Hempfield Township. I did not know to be there early at your to look at the content, but I was wondering available to be seen by other residents that weren't at your meeting. Is it available in the township building? Is it available to be seen?
She broke.
Specifically asking about the draft concept plan that's been posted in the meeting room for the public meetings, is in the newsletter and is online.
Can you just get her email and email it to her?
Sure.
Directly.
Susan, if you can provide your email in the chat, I can forward the link for the township website where it's posted, as well as any further information you need.
Okay, sure. I can do that. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. All right, so what is for those here that are, that have a concern for this, when do we foresee, Ms. Schweitzer, this concept plan, all the information being reviewed by staff, put together and coming back to the board?
I'm going to probably need clarification, probably through the Park and Rec Committee, exactly what you want to see. We have data, we have a survey, we have an initial draft. We can certainly add tweaks to that draft based on the comments that we have received. We have concept plans that we received tonight that we can look at to see if there's anything we missed in terms of placement of items.
So I think a reasonable path forward is to review the data that we have compared to the concept plan that we do have. And I'd like to move this, get it off the table. Again, it's a concept plan. It's nothing that's going to be in stone, but I'd like to give the community a heads up of when we're going to have a vote on the concept plan, when that's going to take place. So do you foresee that being at the July meeting?
I think in fairness to the residents that have been coming to our meetings, we probably need to get the concept out first. Discuss it at a public meeting, possibly first meeting. We only have one meeting in July, the meeting in July, and then consider it possibly for adoption at the meeting in August.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Is the rest of the board okay with that?
I would even caution a little bit more about saying a timeline. I'm putting my engineer's hat on. There's a lot of work we just dumped on our township staff.
Yes.
And so I think in all fairness, maybe our next meeting, we can announce a little bit better schedule instead of maybe just playing right now on the spot and firing from the hip. I think they got to digest a lot of information. They got a lot of concepts to go through. And I think we got to just hit the pause button, give them a chance to take a breath and figure out what the plan is. Just that would be my perspective if I were in their shoes.
It's also vacation season, so aligning
Okay.
everybody's time and reviewing it would be
So
helpful. If we
so
could-
the next step at our next meeting, you are going to give us a timeline outline.
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not really in a hurry with this, so I don't. Yeah, I'd say give our staff a little time, a little breathing room for one thing. The other thing, I don't know if this is possible, but in the interest of transparency, could we make available all the plans that we got tonight with private information redacted, just so that people can see what other people came up with, and then everyone can kind of do their own comparison with what we end up with, so that no one feels like their concept was just thrown out and not even considered, that it's all out there on the table. I know that's another additional bit of work, but I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility.
Barbara, how many responses did you log to date?
I think we got what, 40 photos tonight. So not an unmanageable number.
But we have to redact them, put them in a format, get them posted online,
Right.
allow for comment period. So we're looking at time, and you said we're not in any hurry.
No,
So
I don't think.
we can come back with you with the schedule.
I
Answer
think
your question,
this
Mr.
week-
LaFever, there are 45 so far submitted.
Could I suggest that you review, staff review 45 that came in and pick the top 10 rather than all 45. 45 is a lot of posting.
The question is, how do you pick the top 10?
Well, is there something on here that we didn't think of? Or that's different from what we are considering or have considered to this point?
I would
I
say
mean,
it
somebody,
should
at the end of
be-
the day, someone has to make a decision about, what's pertinent and what's not.
Correct.
Okay? I'd rather that be staff rather than us.
How difficult would it be for Park and Rec to scan these at a meeting and take the responsibility of shortlisting them? Bring them up on the big board in the meeting room, and I'm sure there's a lot of similarity by a number of them that would help to sort.
And I'd be agreeable, I like that idea, and I'd be agreeable to having some community input from the right side of the room over here. When we do that.
So I don't know, I just see a complicated mess right now.
You
And
see, it's
I-
several months.
I
of
think
work.
maybe, could we just hit the
process.
pause button, let our staff digest and maybe talk about this
Yeah,
next meeting with a
I'd like
schedule?
it to be orderly, and we've taken 9 months on this issue for a concept plan, guys. It is a concept plan. It is not in stone. It's going to change. It's not going to be perfect and nobody's going to be happy with it. And like I said, it's frustrating me at this point. So I'd like to get an order forward that we're going to move with it. I'd like that to happen at the next meeting. And I'd like us to stick to it. So we're going to rely on staff to do that, and we'll move it forward. And at the next meeting, we'll have a discussion about the timeline. Okay, all right. New business. Any new business? Hearing none. Public comment. Any public comment in relation to items that weren't discussed here this evening? None. How about online? Do we have anybody from Zoom that wanted to make any comment?
Nothing further.
Managers report.
So top of the list is always Centerville Road South. Diane continues to attend those construction meetings. The work continues. They're concentrating their efforts on the bridge. There is impact on Route 30, also impact on Centerville. Utilities continue to be a struggle in terms of coordination. Church Street paving, the roadway will actually be closed starting on the 12th. And that's a 75-day closure for the culvert replacement there at the golf course and Hempfield Rec. In 2024, it's our understanding that the sidewalks and curb and paving will be then completed on Church Street. Old Roystown Road also is under construction, experiencing struggles concerning utility work. They're still waiting for a PPL. They're still waiting for some design finality in terms of the clearances on the bridge. So that project is rather struggling at this point in time. They did make some progress on Norfolk Southern in terms of the protective services issue, and that seems to have been resolved. The Farmingdale Road project that is currently in a waiting period. We're waiting for the mast arms to be arriving in August, at which point that project will then move forward to install a signal at Orville and Good, improvements to Marietta and Good, and some minor improvements or changes to the Farmingdale Orville section of roadway. Route 72 and Lidditz Road, staff is working on support letters to submit to a Commonwealth Financing Authority grant by July 31st. This was advised by our legislators, Representative Miller and Senator Ament, to seek funding in this regard for the expanded scope of that project to accommodate the Crider Lane. The truck study finally has been received. It's in draft form. There's a meeting of the Public Works Group tomorrow to review that. So hopefully that will be on your agenda for some consideration in a future meeting. The Stony Battery Trail, I still have the 3 outstanding issues in that regard. There's 3 areas. The s'more storage should be paved this week, if it's not already, I'm not sure. We're still waiting for pole removals at 791 Stony Battery, which is the intersection of Nolt Stony Battery. And the third one is TE connectivity at Kaufman Road and the West Hempfield Township property. We did reach out to the property owner. He's provided us with a cost to replace the shed and the concrete slab. In exchange, then we will close that stub or shortcut section between Stony and Kaufman and turn that into a trail. So the dedicated roadway will go back to the property owner of the property in West Hempfield Township. So progress is being made on that regard. We did the water authority appointment. We had the open house. The police contract, we're still negotiating with the association. I would ask for an executive session tonight to brief the board on where we stand with that. And I'll turn it over to Diane to explain the burn ban that the county has just placed.
So this morning at their meeting, the Lancaster County Commissioners, pursuant to the provisions of Act 1995-52, Section 7501 of the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Services Code, established a temporary 30-day countywide ban on any and all open outdoor burning. The burn takes effect on Friday, June 9th at 10 a.m. and supersedes any municipal ordinance, including ours to the contrary. For the purpose of their resolution, open burning was defined as the ignition of subsequent burning of any combustible material, including garbage, leaves, grass, twigs, litter, paper, vegetative material involved in land clearing or any other sort of debris burned in and out of doors area, either a burn barrel screened or unscreened, a fire ring, or open on the ground. The only exemption given to this is fires for the purpose of food preparation. Currently, there's a significant lack of rainfall as well as ongoing low relative humidity across the county and across all of South Central Pennsylvania. These key factors contribute to a very dangerous situation in our county and especially here in our township. Yesterday, the National Weather Service issued a red flag fire weather warning due to the serious concern for fire spread. What this means is that it's highly likely that even a small wildland or even a small fire can turn quickly into a wildland fire, getting out of control and becoming difficult to contain. You may have noticed the air quality today significantly decreased. This is due to wildfires burning out of control in Canada. Our air quality is expected to continue to be impacted by those fires and is currently considered very unhealthy. Many of our youth sports teams canceled due to that today, as well as actually the Phillies canceled their game this evening due to the air quality. So it would be my request that our township residents and business owners pay significant attention to any type of ignition source that would be potentially contributing to the start of a fire. It's also important to recognize that it's not just brush and grass and things that are dry. It's also any wooden structure. Because of the low relative humidity, wood is drying out, whether it's your house or a tree. And so it's really important that people are cognizant of this. It's also important to note that the burn ban does not in any way prohibit the use of fireworks, as that is controlled by state law and can only be managed by the municipality. It would be my request that if these conditions continue at the next Board of Supervisors meeting, we consider potentially imposing some sort of control over the use of fireworks during the 4th of July holiday due to the potential for significant impact to our volunteer fire services and to the safety and welfare of our township citizens.
Anything else?
Just one comment for the Stony Battery Trail where we have that stoppage right now and where the storage area is and that storm crossing area, wherever that is at that location. We can maybe have our public works crew actually just go through and clean that out a little bit. There's actually a lot of people that are starting to use that and are just grass walking after that. For that trail
So-
section. That's really kind of a mess right in there.
That really, there is no stormwater transported under the road through to there. I guess that's just what runs off the road. We do not actually own that, or that is not a stormwater easement. We did remove a tree that was in the right of way.
Yeah, I'm just saying, could we,
For that
if you could, if we can just do a little roadside clean of that
We can
area.
clean it up a little bit. Yeah, it's not.
Because there's actually a lot of people that are now starting to use that trail and that's a little stumbling block when people start walking around onto the road.
Yeah.
To get around and that's not really the intent at this point that people walk on the road.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Hearing none, we are going to adjourn the meeting at 8:28. We will head into executive session. And we will not return. Thank you.
Too fat. No, I can't get one.